So today we're going to be talking about stable coins. Yep. So before we get into it, I want to talk about how stable coins are actually one of the most important things, or if not the most important utility within the crypto space. I want to tell a personal story about the interaction of stable coins. And and it goes back, I think, to, there was a minor Bitcoin holiday this week. I don't know if how religious all of you are. It was a Durbanan holiday. It was Bitcoin Pizza Day. So it commemorated how a little over a decade ago was the first real-world transaction of where an owner of Bitcoin was able to use Bitcoin as a means of exchange and a unit of account to be able to make a real-world purchase and actually use Bitcoin as money. Now, here we are. Bitcoin has been around for roughly 13 years, and still we struggle with a twofold problem. One is the problem that, hey, my timer is not going. So if somebody wants to push that. Thank you. So I get extra time. So the problem is that if you believe in Bitcoin, you don't want to spend it. If you don't believe in Bitcoin, you don't want to receive it. Or if you do receive it, you're just going to dump it. So it's this presents a conundrum. And there's been a number of different ways to try and solve this problem. But we see today that really within the whole crypto space, and one of the core tenets that makes DeFi so innovative and so valuable is the introduction of stablecoins. And today it's been massively successful with huge amounts of risk and huge ups and downs, as we've all seen. Now, for myself, about 2 months ago, I was invited to a brainstorming session to figure out how to take the world's largest algorithmic stablecoin, which was called UST or Terra, and how to convert that into something that would be a representation of Bitcoin. Unfortunately, it didn't work, but I believe that, and it was, it was about 7 weeks from start to finish. But I believe that the philosophy will live on beyond this. And let's break it down a little bit as to what we see here. What are we going to talk about here today? What are the types of stable coins? What was Terra? How did it work? What happened? Where Terra is going now, and the future of stable coins. There's a few different types of stable coins. There's $170 billion worth of stable coins. The majority of it is banker coins. Banker coins are where an organization, a centralized organization, puts money into a bank. Sometimes it's audited, sometimes it's not audited. Sometimes they claim it's audited, but it isn't really. And then they issue tokens on a blockchain because of that. Then there's over-collateralized coins, which use crypto assets in order to create stable debt. Then there's algorithmic, and then under-collateralized. So if we look at the banker-backed, the most popular is obviously Tether, which is produced roughly by Bitfinex via proxy, and then USDC produced by Circle. The pro is that they're actually redeemable, presumably for US dollars. The cons is that they're completely centralized and they require trust in a third-party issuer. The next is over-collateralized coins. So the original implementation of this was called MakerDAO. I'm sure most of you are familiar with MakerDAO, producing the debt vehicle DAI, which has 150% collateralization rate, meaning that if the crypto collateral, which is primarily the ETH token, drops below the value of 150% of the debt that was minted through the vault or collateralized debt position, so then the collateralized debt position is liquidated by keeper bots, and you end up getting charged a 13% fee, you as the initiator of the position. Then there's others equivalents, which have a lower collateralization ratio, like AUSD, which has a 120% rate, produced by Polkadot. The pro is that these are buffered against price fluctuations. They have a tendency to be able to handle the black swan events that we've seen over the last 3 to 4 years. The cons are that they're an inefficient use of capital. This capital has to sit idle. And in a world where capital is king, being forced to lock up in most cases, I think the average rate of a DAI is actually not at the 150%, because obviously that's the liquidation price, is actually above 200%, at 215 to 220%. It fluctuates obviously with the market. Algorithmic. Ampleforth is an example of a single coin algorithmic stablecoin where they actually rebase the amount of tokens that you own. If it drops below the peg, then they actually take tokens out of your wallet in order to bring it back to the peg of $1. If the demand fluctuates and then it becomes worth more than $1, then they essentially airdrop more tokens into your wallet. It might maintain an average price over time, but it really isn't something that can be used for day-to-day commerce. Then there was something that was unique in the market, but obviously failed, which is UST, which was produced by Terra. The pros is that they can either be decentralized or can have a clear path to decentralization. But the cons is that they're not backed by real-world assets. Thus, they're susceptible to a range of risks. For example, bank runs, economic attacks, and technical failures. So then there's what is probably going to be the next generation of stablecoins in the next market cycle, which is under-collateralized. So we have Frax, which is produced by Frax Finance, and USN, which is produced by Near. So this is somewhat of a combination between collateralized assets or over-collateralized crypto assets produced by the likes of MakerDAO and the algorithmic nature like what Terra was. So they are, while they're very interesting, they've never been tried at scale. And I think that as a community, we're much more apprehensive about the under-collateralized nature and the black swan events that users could be subject to. So if you're not familiar with Terra, we'll talk about the story of what happened. So it was a DeFi blockchain. It was a payment system launched by the Terraform Labs in 2018. It was an algorithmic stablecoin, and of UST, it was Terra, like from the Latin word earth, and Luna, like the Latin word moon. So they had a structured relationship where there was minting and burning from one to the other in order to be able to maintain a stabilized price. The Luna Foundation Guard, which was launched roughly in the beginning of February of this year, was and I was an advisor of that organization. So I was part of the brainstorming sessions where we talked about what would the transition of a purely algorithmic stablecoin, how that would transition into a semi-backed asset. Unfortunately, we were attacked before any of the results of the brainstorming were able to come to fruition. But I do believe that some of the thought leadership and some of the principles that were discussed within I think it was 3 meetings we had officially, within those 3 meetings actually came to fruition. So the Luna Foundation Guard purchased about $3 billion of Bitcoin to act as the Terra Reserve, to semi-back roughly the $18 billion of UST that was in the market. Moving it from an algo only to a mix of algo and under-collateralized stablecoin. So if we look at what happened, this was about 3 weeks ago now. So there was the Bitcoin reserve was purchased over time. There was an 85 million UST dump on the market. It's unclear who did that. There was a depeg to 94, and this is all reported. This is just public information reported by CoinDesk. I have no way to verify. I have no inside information beyond what was produced on Twitter, but I think it's important for everybody to understand what happened. So UST depegged to 94 cents. LFG voted on selling 750 million actually that's a typo in there, of USDT to repeg UST. There still was a restruggle. UST and Luna dumped, and then there was a drop to 35 cents, and then a 96% drop of the Luna token, which then halted the network because Tendermint, which was the consensus mechanism, now no longer could provide an effective means of consensus, given how cheap it would be to purchase over 33% of the entire tokens, which then would allow for any nefarious actor to be able to halt the network. So then there was a selling of more Bitcoin. The report from CoinDesk was that LFG sold that. There was no real visibility, at least that I'm aware of actually how that sale happened. But it was unsuccessful. The UST still struggled, and then the Terra blockchain essentially halted for an afternoon. And then the talks of moving over to Terra 2 began, which is actually something that there are hundreds of projects that are still building or were building and about to launch on Terra, which was the most popular Cosmos chain. So the recovery plan is to launch shortly without UST. Which at least in my mind made it so interesting, and that's what attracted me to participate in the thought leadership of creating this semi-backed Bitcoin-based algorithmic stablecoin. There will be some type of token distribution, and then attempts to rebuild trust, which is a significant uphill battle. There's an Agora vote which just went through, which talked about the distribution of the tokens. There's a link here if you want to see and look at how the community reacted and how they feel that the governance token should be distributed. And then now for the future of stablecoins. I believe that we set the industry back with this crash and this attack and the failure to be able to maintain the peg, probably by about 5 years. But from a philosophical perspective, I think that if all that we can do is, until there is a Bitcoin standard, which I believe will happen someday, but until there's a Bitcoin standard, if all we can do is back stablecoins by dollars in the bank, then it's going to be very challenging to create massive adoption for DeFi as a whole. So I am optimistic that others will come and will take what happened to Terra as a lesson. I see Near has been adjusting their methodology to be able to prevent the same types of black swan events, and I think others will as well. And I believe that stablecoins will have a bright future, but it will probably take another market cycle or two before there is adoption on a wide scale, like what happened with Terra. So I'm Jonathan Caras. You can contact me. My Telegram is open. My Twitter is open. I'm MadCapsLaugh. It's been a hell of a week, both for a couple weeks. But I remain optimistic of the future of the industry, and I'd love to talk and answer questions if anybody wants to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.